Faces of Cancer podcast. I am your host, Melissa Grosboll, and joining me today is Katie Kaiser-Smith. Now, at 41, Katie was diagnosed with inoperable terminal brain cancer. She immediately started writing a daily diary to inform her friends and family of her health and ongoing treatment. That daily blog was so therapeutic for her that she continued writing it for 4 years, chronicling everything from her diagnosis and treatment to her physical, mental, and spiritual transformation, as well as evolving relationships with family and friends. She survived through tears, laughter, support, and sheer will. Katie has been married for 20 years and is the mother of 2 children. She lives in Los Angeles with her family. And prior to being diagnosed with brain cancer, she worked as a child development specialist. So welcome to the show, Katie.
Hi, Melissa. Thank you so much for having me.
I am so excited to dive into this because not that I have a favorite cancer or anything like that, but there's just something about brain cancer because it's such a low, generally survival rate, especially with glioblastoma, that I'm always so excited whenever I get to talk to anybody who has survived it. So I want to dive right in and I want to know, like, where were you? What was going on in your life? How did you, figure out and find out that this was what was going on with you?
Well, this was back in 2012, and I had just had a baby a year prior. So I had a 1-year-old, and my daughter was 1, my son was 6. So I was just, deep into motherhood at that point. And slowly I just started to notice some weird symptoms with my left hand and my left arm, where I started feeling some tingling in my fingertips and just a general kind of tiredness and heaviness in my arm. So it was really subtle, wasn't anything that was, that I would go, oh my God, something's really wrong. I didn't have any headaches. I didn't have any nausea, dizziness, seizures, anything that would be typical of a brain tumor. So I just kind of didn't pay much attention for a few months. And then I just started noticing that the things that I could do with my right hand, like just move my fingers really fast, I couldn't do with my left hand. So that's when I started going, ooh, there's really something going on here.
Wow. And for me as a chiropractor, I would think, oh my gosh, you have a pinched nerve or something, and just go get your neck adjusted.
That's exactly what I did. I went to see my chiropractor and I went for about 2 weeks and my back felt great, but my hand was starting to get worse. So I didn't see any improvement in that. It actually started getting worse. So that's when I started talking to a neurologist.
Wow. All right. So you went straight to the neurologist. You didn't go to your primary care doctor, or?
No, I don't mess around. I'm just, I don't know. I'm so aware of my body. And I just knew that, I actually had a friend who was a neurologist or a neurology resident. And he said, this is something relating to your brain or spine. You need to go get an MRI. So that's when I went to an actual neurologist, local guy that I just got a referral from my primary care. And we just did MRIs. And then we found this big kind of mass about that big in my brain.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. So, and again, I don't know a whole lot about brain cancer. I'm assuming that it was operable, that you had surgery to remove it.
At first, they did say it was operable. That was my first question. Is it in an operable location? And they said yes. And at first, we thought it looked like a grade 2, excuse me, which is that's a benign brain tumor. So that was great news at first. And excuse me, we tried to remove it. My first hospital I went to tried to remove it and they were unsuccessful, but they were able to do a biopsy, which showed grade 3 cancer cells. So that's when we knew it was cancer. And I went straight to radiation and chemo after that.
Okay.
And that's when things got really hairy.
In what way? What do you mean?
I became allergic to the chemo.
Oh my gosh.
I had to stop that. So instead of doing 12 to 18 months of it, I did 5 weeks. So that was the first big, like, whoa, that's not good. After the unsuccessful surgery was not good. Then I became allergic to the chemo. It's like, oh my God, now what? And the radiation itself caused massive swelling in my brain because it's killing off the tumor so quickly, and the brain doesn't have a good lymphatic system. So there's nowhere for those dead cells to go. So it just starts building up and causing really crazy swelling. And I became so paralyzed on my left side that I was not really able to walk anymore. So it got really, really bad.
So what did they do? Did they just say this is the hazards of the treatment, or did they try and do something different?
Well, it was kind of to be expected, but we tried a different chemotherapy just because we felt like, yeah, it should definitely try something else. But then that one caused my red blood cells to plummet, and so we had to stop that. Then we tried this other medication called Avastin, which reduces the swelling. And it was kind of new at the time, and it comes with a lot of risks, stroke and holes in your GI tract. All of these things have a lot of risks, chemo risk of leukemia. So, you really have to just sit there and go, what am I going to try? What are the risk, benefit, rewards? So we said, yeah, we're going to try this Avastin and see what happens. So it'll either work immediately or it won't work at all. And it started working immediately on my swelling. So I was able to gain function back in my left side, which was great. But still, there was a lot of swelling. And my doctor was like, you know what? I don't like how this is going. I think you should try going to another hospital and see if they can take the tumor out. So
Okay.
that's what I did. Yeah. And they were able to get it out, which was the reason I'm alive right now. So I was
So
super
had the
lucky.
tumor shrunk from the treatments that now that it was operable, or was it just a misdiagnosis the first time around?
It had shrunk a little, but that wasn't the reason that they were able to get it out. Everything depends on who's reading your MRIs, and different surgeons have different expertise. And so the first surgeon I had, when I had surgery, I started having seizures during surgery, and they kind of were like, oh, they stopped the surgery because of that. And they said it looked different when they got in there than it did on the MRI. And that can happen, depends on who's reading it again. So when I went from Cedars-Sinai to UCLA, the surgeon at UCLA said, you know what, let's do another MRI. And we did that, and they made like a 3D model of my brain. And she said, I think I can get it out. So I don't know. I don't know that it was the shrinking. She was able to get it out at what she thought was about 95% at the time. So
Wow. So the
that's
key here is get a second opinion,
and a third and a
and a
fourth.
third, and a
Yeah,
fourth if need be.
seriously, I had gone through three opinions first before I even chose a surgeon. So then, yeah, you know, different doctors can say they can't get a tumor out, and other doctors say they can. So definitely, one of my biggest things is to get opinions on anything, whether it's a tooth or a tumor. Get a second opinion. Trust your instincts.
And I mean, there is a possibility if you get a second, third opinion, they're all going to say the same thing,
Oh
which
yeah.
then you know for sure that that's the right diagnosis or whatever. But if they're giving you different opinions, then I mean, I know you wanted the surgery, you wanted it taken out, but was there ever any kind of trepidation of, well, this one said that they couldn't, so what's going to happen if she goes in, and finds the same thing?
Of course, yeah. But having done what they call a functional MRI, which is different than just a regular one, during a functional MRI, they have you moving different parts of your body while you're in the MRI machine and thinking thoughts, which is really strange. They'll show you a photo of something, and you don't even have to say the word. You just think the thought of what is that on the picture, and they can tell which parts of your brain are lighting up during that. It's the strangest experience. It's like a video game. So she, being really good at reading MRIs, was able to say, no, this is not completely in your motor area, like the first doctor said. It's just nestled in there. So I think I can get it out. Whereas he saw something completely different in his reading of an MRI. So she has a lot of experience. She said, I love these kind of tumors, which is like, woohoo. She's like, I can just tell what's normal brain and what's tumor just by feeling it. So she had a lot of expertise in this area. So I fully trusted her.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And then so the diagnosis ended up being different when they
Mm-hmm.
did the surgery from your initial diagnosis, right?
Very different. It started out as thinking it's benign grade 2, then it went to grade 3, and then when they finally took the tumor out and did the dissecting of it and all the different genetic markers and things, it came out that there was grade 4 in there. So very, very lucky that they were able to get it out, because if we hadn't, that would have just kind of exploded, and just that would be the end. So being able to take out the tumor is huge, and I'm so fortunate that they were able to do that, you know. So I also had a really great genetic marker called IDH1, which if you have good genetic markers, that one makes it a slower growing, less aggressive tumor. They thought I'd had this tumor for 10, 20, 30 years. So that
Wow.
also makes it very fortunate. So there's things that, are on your side and things that are against you. And it's just it's a lottery draw. You don't know if you have these things or you don't. So I
Now,
was very fortunate.
when did you have the genetic testing, and I guess why was it recommended by your doctors and why?
After the first surgery, when they took the biopsy out, they automatically do it. It's not something that they said, do you want to do this or not? It was just automatically
Okay.
done. And
Okay.
that's when they told me about the genetic markers that I have. And there's another one that was really good that I didn't have. But the one I do have was really great. So, I had that on my side. But yeah, it wasn't a choice. And the second hospital, they took my tumor out and they still have it frozen somewhere. So they can use it in the future for a immunotherapy vaccine for me if and for some reason I need that in the future. That's something that's possible.
And it's really cool that they do that. Like my breast tumor was 12 millimeters. I mean, it was teeny tiny, but they kept it. And I'm in this program now. I'm doing this Signatera testing, which tests for circulating tumor cells
Mm-hmm.
that I have the testing done every 3 to 6 months. And they like take a slice of that tumor and they find out what kind of cells are in there or something. And then with the blood work, they test for those kinds of cells. But I'm also in some research study or something like that where they take a slice of my tumor and, I don't even remember what they do with it. I was
How
not.
much is left of your tumor if they keep slicing
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
it?
Like, mine was only 12 millimeters. I'm like, oh my gosh, is there even enough for all of this? But I
Right.
mean, I guess those slices are so thin that it doesn't even matter. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if they keep these tumors forever or like, I don't know, what do they have some big vault or something that has all of these cancer tumors?
Yeah.
I don't even know, but it's fascinating.
It is, and I'm glad that they have that technology now. Can you imagine 20, 30 years ago, they didn't even have proper chemo for my kind of tumor. Things are developing all the time, and we're just lucky that we're living in the day and age that we are. I mean, eventually, people like me may not even need chemo and radiation. Maybe they'll just have, they do have different kinds of radio, uh, like pinpointed radiation instead of whole brain radiation now. So there's different things that are coming up all the time, that are maybe less
Absolutely.
detrimental, less dangerous for the brain.
Yeah, it's getting better and better. I mean, even with my radiation, I had targeted radiation. So because my tumor was on my left side and they were worried about my heart and my lungs, that they just, targeted instead of the whole breast. And I mean, it's not like it's any better or worse. It's just it was a little bit easier,
Yeah.
to deal with than possible burning, of my entire breast. So I love hearing about all the advancements and new things that are coming about all the time.
Yeah, especially with the brain, you don't want to damage healthy tissue because we
Right.
need every bit of brain we have. And so, I mean, definitely the radiation did damage the surrounding healthy tissue. And that's why I have some side effects. I have some palsy in my face, I have some paralysis on my left side, and all those things because it was so close to the motor area. There's no way to avoid, especially I think with brain cancer, you're never going to come out of it unscathed. There's always going to be something, whether it's cognitive, emotional, depending on where the tumor is, there's always going to be something that is you're left with to deal with because it's your brain and it controls everything and we
Right.
need it. So,
Yeah. And they
it's
can't go in yet and just like, oh, there's the little tumor. It's a nice little ball, and we can just take it out and not bother anything else, right?
even because the tumor itself is made up of brain cells. So even just taking out the tumor part, you've got regular brain cells in there. It's so complicated. It's all glial cells, which is brain cells. And so just even taking the tumor out itself, you're taking out brain. So, it's heavy. It's really intense. And yeah, waking up from surgery, I couldn't walk, couldn't swallow, couldn't talk, I had to just do all that again because again, it's like, it's all so I'm in there and it's all affects everything. So, you know,
But this was 12 years ago?
2012. So yeah, just 12 years ago.
12 years
10
ago.
years. Yeah, that was when I was first diagnosed in 2012. My second surgery, the successful one, was in 2013.
Okay. So you are 11 plus years cancer free.
Yeah.
Congratulations. That's amazing.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you.
Now, and you kind of alluded to it in the introduction, but you started journaling through this process. So can you tell us a little bit about, how that came about and why you felt called to do that, and a little bit about, how it helped you, how it, yeah, helped on your journey through treatment and all of the other things.
Well, when you're first diagnosed, you have to let everybody know and you have to keep everybody updated with everything. And so I was lucky enough that my hospital, the first hospital, had a platform called Care Pages, which was a blog where you could inform your friends and family about everything that you're going through. So you don't have to keep emailing and calling each individual person and going through the stories over and over again. So, you sign up with Care Pages and you can write as much or little as you want. And people sign up and then they get notifications when you when you write something on there. So I started blogging every day because there was so much information every day and things were changing every day. So every doctor's appointment I had, every new information. When I was in surgery, my husband got on there and would write for me so that everyone was always kept up to speed on what was happening with me. So I started writing every day. And the great part about it was that people can leave comments. So when I would write something, people would comment, and the support that I got from people was incredible. And more people started signing up to hear my story. So by the end, what was just family and friends in the beginning became over 300 people
Wow.
logging in to see what was happening with me, people I'd never even met before, which was pretty great. And people were fascinated with the story, and these that kept saying, you need to turn this into a book, you need to turn this into a book, because there was just so much information and so many things that people like me, people with cancer, could learn from my experience, and all the pitfalls and all of the information, and the things that you get. There's just so much information, and I could teach people, if you're a caregiver, this is what you should do for someone that you love who has cancer or was diagnosed with a terminal illness or a chronic illness. Here's what you should do, here's what you should not say to them. All those things that people do and they don't know what to do for someone that they love who's going through something like this. So in that way, it was really helpful, I think, for not just for me but for other people.
And then you didn't just when you were done with treatment and everything, when did you stop journaling? Because I know that you're not still doing it.
No, I think, it went on because, the whole surgery thing lasted at least 2 years. So that was 2012 to 2014. And then, as things progressively get better, no news is good news. So you just have less to write about. I would still write, once in a while, and there were still things going on with me, even though I was done with treatment. I had developed epilepsy from all the messing with my brain. And so that was a huge deal. I was having seizures constantly, and I still needed support. I still needed people to come over and help me and drive me and sit with me. And so because I couldn't be alone. So those were ways I could say, help, you guys, someone sign up to come sit with me on Friday? Or can someone help me with driving the kids to school on this day? So it was still helpful, very helpful for me to have that and be able to just vent about things. It could just go, and I just, I need to get this out. I'm having a really crappy day, or, fighting with my husband. I just need to tell people about it. And, it's not all like, even though I look fine, I'm not fine. I'm pretending to be fine. And so this is what's really happening with me. So I could be really vulnerable. I could be myself. Like sometimes on Facebook, you're like, everything's great. Here's a picture of me on the beach. And, but in my
Highlight reel.
blog, I could just be myself, and I could be sad and just depressed, and 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 people would lift me up, they'd support me, and it was great. So I just kept going until about 2016, because that's when I finally was able to be seizure free. So there was less drama, less things for me to write about, and I just said, you know what, I'm just going to go live my life now. I'm going to go make memories with my kids, go spend time with my family. And I didn't need it as much as I did in the beginning. So, and that's when I just started taking it and turning it into the actual book.
So how was it going back when you were writing your book and putting it all into your book? How was it to go back and read some of those early journal entries?
It was really hard. It was really hard. I'd cry because I felt so sorry for myself. I felt sorry for that girl who was going through all of that. Like, oh my gosh, that was really hard. And just triggering memories for me that were so intense and so scary. I was, sometimes I'd have to just stop and take a break from writing, from doing the book and going back and reading all those. So for a year, I would just take a break and just not read it for a while. It was a process. It took a long time, a really long time to do it. It's hard.
I bet. I bet.
Mhm.
You don't want to go back there, but
No.
the benefits of this, instead of like, oh, today I'm going to write a book about what happened back then, that, I mean, you had all of the raw emotion and just everything was happening right then. So you had all that information versus, I mean, and I know you felt it and we all felt it, that a lot of times you're like in a fog going through
Mhm.
all of this, and either you don't want to remember, or chemo brain happens or whatever, and you can't really remember what happened back then. So what a gift and what a blessing for you have had to have the forethought to do it in the moment, so it was all really authentic and happening at that time.
And thank God I did. I would never be able to remember all of the things that happened, the funny things, the sad things, the cute things my kids were doing at the time, because I would write a lot about them because they were so little and, everything's happening. So I would never be able to remember all their little milestones. When my son lost his two front teeth, when my daughter was potty trained, like all of these things that I didn't know if I'd live to see. So that was all important for me to write in there. My daughter's 13, almost 14 now, and she's reading my book. She was 1. So now she's reading all of these things that happened that she had no idea, and reading things about herself. And so it's so great to have that. I love it so much. And yeah, I'd never be able to remember any of that stuff.
And a great gift for your kids too. They
Mhm.
kind of, grew up at least those 4 years and got to get to relive experiences that, a 2, 3-year-old isn't gonna remember.
No, and it's like, hey, look what I went through. Be nice to me. Right?
You get to play the cancer card.
Absolutely. Anytime I can. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. I've done that a couple of times too.
Yeah. I'm thinking mommy and me still, and I was so sick, and here I was doing this for you and doing this for you, and all the, Elf on the Shelf, and I was, so sick, and I'm still doing all of these things, the Advent boxes and the, everything. So it's great to have. I love it
Be
so much.
nice to me.
Yeah, be nice to me. Look what I did.
All right. So the name of your book is Welcome to Katie's Brain. You just published it not too long ago, correct?
Yeah, this year in June, this last spring, I published it, and I'm recording my audiobook right now. So
Oh
I'm
my
so
gosh, that's
excited about that.
fantastic.
Yeah, I'm almost done with that, so that'll be really exciting because I love reading audiobooks. To me, that's my favorite way of reading a book because I don't have a lot of time to just sit down and read. So when I'm driving or doing dishes or whatever, I like listening to books. And especially when they're read by the author, I feel like it's just so much more personal and you really get to, feel what they're going through. And so I'm so excited about that.
Well, I'm very excited about that too, because I feel exactly the same way. My husband laughs at me because I almost always have earbuds in my ears and I'm listening to a book or listening to a podcast or something, because I don't have time to just sit and
Yeah.
read. And most of the time, if I actually do sit down and read, I'm falling asleep because I'm
Yeah.
so tired and
I'm
it's the end
so
of the day. So
Yeah, so distracted, but if I'm gardening and pulling weeds or I'm just driving for a long period of time, I'm right there and I'm in it. And I love it. Just tons of, I like listening to autobiographies and memoirs too. Those are
yes,
really
me
neat.
too. I'm actually listening to Cher's memoir, her part one of her memoir right now. And she only reads the introduction to each chapter and then somebody else reads the rest of it. But it's enough of her that,
Sure.
it's been really fascinating so far.
I just
Okay.
listen
So the
to at
book
least
is
three.
available wherever you get books,
Mhm.
Amazon, Barnes and Noble, any online
Target, Walmart.
retailer. I'm going to put the link
Mhm.
to Amazon in the show notes. And if you get a copy of the book and you read it, if you want to leave a review, that is always wonderful to get the
Please.
get the book out to more people so more people can can read it. Now, is it kind of like, is it in journal format, or did you kind of write a prose story based on all of your journal entries?
No, it's in diary format. So it's okay on December 12th, 2012. I mean, this is what happened. And I've got 92 color photos in there. So you can see, and they're all in chronological order. So you can see, okay, this is what my kids look like at this age. And here's my in-laws who took care of me. And here's my doctors. So it's kind of a really cool thing because it really brings it to life. And you can see, oh, okay, this is how terrible she looked at this point. She was really feeling really bad, and this is what she looked like. Okay, yeah, oh, yeah, she looks like terrible. So it just makes it more personal, I think, and it was really important to me to have all those photos in there to chronicle that whole experience. You see the transformation. Here's what I look like before, during, and then after. It really brings it to life, I think. So, and I think journaling, the format that it's in makes it a really fast read. You read it like that because it's such an easy way to read something.
And some journal entries are probably 2 or 3 sentences, and then some are 3 or 4 pages.
Exactly. So yeah, exactly. Yeah, most of them are probably a good sized paragraph, and then there's some with just one word, barfing.
Oh,
Cool. Just little things like that. But yeah.
and now who is the book? Like, who did you have in mind when you were putting the book together that you really wanted to read it? Is it people going through cancer? Is it caregivers? Is it just, the general population to know what it's like? Like, did you have a person in mind that you wanted to make sure was reading it as you were putting it together?
I think it's mostly for cancer patients like myself. It's the book that I wish I had when I was diagnosed because I was starving for information. And because there's not a lot of survivors of brain cancer, there's not much out there. I read books about people with melanoma. I mean, anything I could get my hands on, I would try and read about cancer and treatment, but there was nothing for me about my kind of cancer. So this is the book I wish I had. It's got a whole ton of information in there about treatments and alternative treatments and complementary therapies. And so there's a lot of information about that, but it's all I think it's equally as good for caregivers because it's like, here's what I need, here's what I don't need. Don't say this to me. Do say this. Don't say if you need anything, let me know. That's not helpful. Just do it. Or just, call me up from the store and say, I'm at Whole Foods, what can I get you? And don't take no for an answer. Just little things like that are throughout the book. This is what you should do as a caregiver. This is what you should do as a friend. So I think it's good for anybody. And doctors too should read it because, man, are they not trained in, bedside manner at all. So, there's a lot of information about this is the doctor that I love because this is how they talk to me. And here's this guy's a jerk because he's just said, cut your arm off or whatever. There's just like so many, seriously, it's good for doctors too.
And you really dove into research and finding out different things, for your own care. And I'm assuming that those are in the book as well. Like you talk about Viagra as an alternative treatment that nobody else told you about, that you kind of had to find out online. Can you talk a little bit about, the benefits of Viagra for what you were going through?
Yeah, I prided myself on just researching like crazy. My doctors probably hated me because I'd come in with a list of things like, what about this? What about this? I read about this. Does this work? And they would sometimes they go, no, forget about that. That's a scam. Or do it if you want, but it's not going to help you. And then other things like I researched and it came up with Viagra because cancer doesn't react the same way to regular chemo. Brain cancer doesn't react to the kind of chemo you would get with brain cancer or any other kind of cancer because there's a blood-brain barrier. It doesn't allow the same amount of chemo to get to your brain, only about 40%. And it's a different chemo anyway. But if you take Viagra, it dilates the blood vessels, so more chemo can actually get to your brain. So that was something I found that I brought to my doctors, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that actually is true, and I can prescribe it for you." But it's like, why do I have to come up with that? Why do I have to find out that melatonin is really good for brain cancer or cannabis or whatever? But I would always come with a list of questions. So yeah, everything about that is in the book. So it's really good for brain cancer people because I've done all the research for you, and this is a scam and this isn't. This is actually really helpful. So That's all.
And that's awesome because, I never like to really throw shade on medical doctors. I know they're doing the best that they can and they're so engrossed in saving lives and they've kind of got their protocol of what people go through that I really think they just don't have a lot of time to research alternatives and other things that people can do. And not that they count on the patients to do that, but they know kind of, okay, this is going to save your life. This is going to do this. This is going to do that. And there's just not a lot of space, I think, for a lot of research on alternatives. Unfortunately, my oncologist, I asked her about diet. I was like, okay, what should I be eating? What shouldn't I be eating? Like, how can I be as healthy as possible? And God love her. And I absolutely love my oncologist. But she said, you should probably cut back on the sugar, cut back on the alcohol, and eat more plants. Like
Right.
that was her advice. And, I went and did all of the research on what to eat, what not to eat, all of those things. But I think that they just don't have the time to do a lot of research on different things, unfortunately.
Well, and there are things that are so important. Like I was taking tons of supplements, but some of the supplements I was taking are antioxidants. And if you're doing radiation, it oxidizes your cells. So if you're taking antioxidants, it can actually negate the radiation. It's like, I found that out. So like, yeah, you should probably cut back on the E and the A and the D and things like that because you want all the radiation actually that you can get because you can only do it once. So, those are the things that are in my book, but that I found out and I knew to ask, because otherwise no one would have told me and I would have kept taking everything and doing all that stuff. So you need to be your own advocate. I think that's number one lesson. You have to advocate for yourself. So many situations I was like, so glad I know this, or, I would yell at a nurse who didn't put on gloves to put in an IV, or they just really crazy things, like just crazy things. And so you have to stand up for yourself. You can't be like, all right, just do whatever you want to me and I'll just lay here and just, not ask any questions.
And I've had so many people that I've interviewed say that. And on that same token, if you don't feel like you're in the space to, or you have the energy to, or any of that, bring somebody along with you who can be that advocate for you. Because I mean, especially when we're first diagnosed, like there's just a fog and you can't even think straight. And you just want somebody to tell you like everything's going to be okay. Just do this. And so if you can't do it for yourself, bring somebody along to ask questions, to write down answers. So when you're in a good frame of mind, you can look back and go, okay, he said this, she told me this. Now, what do I want to do? Right.
Yeah, my best friend since high school actually came and slept in my hospital bed with me.
Aw.
Yeah, on multiple occasions. And it was so great because she would advocate for me and she would take care of me like nobody else could, right? My husband stayed home with the kids. I could have her there taking care of me. And there's nothing better. There's no better feeling than having, your best friend, someone who's the closest to you, be there. And just to snuggle in bed with was just amazing, And there
Oh,
was a lot
that's
of
so
funny
special.
situations that happened with that. So yeah, it's kind of hilarious, but it was really great. She dropped everything to be there for me.
That is wonderful.
So
All right, so we talked about advocating, we talked about research. Outside of that, like what is one piece of advice that you would give to somebody who is just starting on this cancer journey, maybe somebody who's been diagnosed with brain cancer, or just, somebody in the midst of all of the craziness of a cancer diagnosis? What's one big lesson outside of what we've talked about or piece of advice that you would give to that person?
don't panic. Don't panic. Don't make decisions based on fear because there'll be bad decisions. And I made a bunch of them because I was in a state of panic and I would do anything. I would order dirt from Peru or I would, do stupid things because I was panicking and I didn't know what else to do. Who do I talk to? Who do I go see? And, spending thousands and thousands of dollars on things that are not going to help you or could make you worse. So just relax. I kept telling myself, I'm not going to die tomorrow. I'm not going to die next week. I'm not going to die next month. Calm down. So just that panic feeling that you get when the rug is just completely pulled out from under you is so intense that just try not to make decisions based on fear. Do your research, get other opinions, lots of opinions, and just don't base anything on fear, because it'll be a bad decision. I guarantee it.
So explain a little bit more about the don't panic. I mean, you get that diagnosis, you hear those 3 words, you have cancer, and I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're the strongest person, the healthiest person in the world. You know, the first thought that goes through people's minds is, oh my God, am I going to die?
Mhm.
And then the second one is, how quick can I get it out?
Yeah.
But
If you
you
can
hear
at
those
all.
words and you're going to panic and
Mhm.
you're going to freak out. So what did you do to help to quell that so you could be in a state more controlled to be able to make rational decisions?
I immediately went and researched brain cancer survivor stories, because, okay, if one person, 10 people can survive this, then I can be one of them. And why can't I be one of them? So that's what I focused on. I focused on triumph over adversity stories, books, and movies. And I still watch them to this day. I love triumph over adversity. I love rooting for the underdog, and just survivor stories. Just focus on positive, positive, positive. Get negative out of your mind. Watch funny movies and stand-up comedy and funny TV shows that are predictable, and not someone's not going to just die of cancer on a sitcom. So just, keep everything positive and just focus on that. Bring joy into your life, go places and, experiences, and have fun, and just try not to freak out, because it's just not good. You want to have a positive mindset and just bring more joy and positivity into your life. And, just yeah, stay cool headed,
Because you can be joyful and you can be positive and still be realistic
Mhm.
about your situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And chances are you'll be okay. You know, you're not going to die tomorrow. So just calm down, and just somebody has survived what you have,
Mhm.
you know. So just you can be one of them, and just focus on that, and just research that, talk to people, join a support group, go to cancer support centers. There are tons of things out there, tons of places for you, and it's really helpful. So just, yeah.
I love that. Wow, that is perfect. Absolutely. All right.
Thanks.
So Katie, where can people find you other than going to Amazon to get your book? Where can people find you if they want to reach out to you, if they want to get in touch with you, if they want some support, if they were diagnosed with brain cancer themselves? How can people get a hold of you?
The best place would be Instagram, Katie Kaiser Smith. I'm easy to find, and there's so many posts that I've done, video posts on there, that you can really hear a lot about my story on there. There's so many photos, and I tend to try and post on there regularly, and so that's the best place to find me. You can DM me, and I'll definitely write you back. I always do. So
Awesome. All right. Well, like I said, we're going to put the link to your book in there. We'll put the link to your Instagram in there. And thank you so much for being on today. Thank you for sharing your story. You are one of those survivors. So anybody who's out there who might be going through this, Katie's a survivor. And if she can do it, there's a great chance that you can too.
can too. Thank you, Melissa. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. This
Of
was fun.
course. Have a great rest of your day.
You too, Melissa.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.